The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Gwilda Wiyaka's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the Science of Magic or endorsed in any manner by Gwilda Wiyaka, Relmar McConnell Media Company, its affiliated networks, stations, or employees. Welcome to the Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, a program dedicated to uncovering the unified nature of reality and humanity's ever-evolving place as truly galactic beings. For more information on the Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, visit us online at www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Welcome to the Science of Magic, a place where science and magic come together to transform fact into evolving truth. We're coming to you through the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net, and can also be found on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. This hour we'll be exploring The Body Doesn't Lie. Most who deal in the esoteric know that by observing the auric field, illness and imbalance can be detected. Some scientists use examination and medical tests to detect the same in the physical body. Few are aware that by blending the two, another amazing layer of information can be gleaned. I've been working in the field of shamanism since my early 20s. While obtaining a degree in psychology, I took numerous pre-med classes. After having children, I received certification in massage therapy from the Boulder College of Massage in order to schedule my work around my family's needs. Upon graduation from Massage College, I specialized in medical massage at a whole health center, interfacing with MDs, chiropractors, and psychotherapists. It was a natural progression when shamanism and body work merged. While working on a massage client, I could access shamanic information regarding the nature of their physical condition. One client was referred to me to treat her chronic plantar fasciitis, an inflammation in the connective tissue in the heel, a condition that can be very painful. She'd been suffering with the discomfort for over 3 years and tried everything she could think of before being referred to me. During our third weekly appointment, she reported experiencing a great amount of relief right after our sessions, but that it would worsen again within a couple days. I'd noted the calf muscles in the affected limb was much tighter than the other and was treating the affected muscle to reduce the pressure where the muscle's tendon connected in her heel, the exact site of the pain. I wonder what's causing this, I thought, while working on her calf. As if in answer to the question in my mind's eye, I saw her sitting at a desk with the ball of her right foot propped on the chair frame. This would engage the right calf muscle and create the overuse symptoms she was exhibiting. I asked her if she worked at a desk and sat in that position. The answer to both questions was yes. I suggested she change chairs and keep both feet on the floor, and she complied. After 3 more sessions to lengthen her calf muscle, her symptoms went away. Soon, historical information started showing up. I had a client with shoulder pain that was resistant to medical treatment. While working on the shoulder, I saw a small child being jerked up off the floor by her arm. I asked the client if she could recall such an incident, and she reported the memory of her mother grabbing her by the arm frequently when she was very young. It was the beginning of my medical intuitive practice. By engaging shamanic sight while working on a client, I could unravel the cause of their physical dysfunction. Not long after, I started accessing emotional and spiritual trauma through the client's body. Being born empathic, I could tune into the client's body with mine, feeling in my own body the restriction in theirs. This directed me where to work. Often, while I was working on the restrictions, memories or emotions would emerge for the client. This led to my understanding that every trauma, be it physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual, is stored in the physical body. Regardless of whether or not a client is consciously aware of an incident or whether they may choose to believe about their history, the body doesn't lie. It's all stored in the physical if you know how to look. One of the clinic's MDs loved to approach me after he'd seen me for one of his referrals, and he got the test results back. "So what do you think it is, Gwilda?" he would ask. "I think it's an overgrowth of candida creating toxins causing inflammation resulting in joint pain," I might answer. "You're exactly right. I don't know how you do that," he would exclaim. "The body doesn't lie," I would inevitably respond. Our guest this hour is Bernard MORIN. Early on, he became aware of power running through his hands. Bernard was also fascinated with body postures, finding he could intuit people's lives and emotional traits by miming their postures. This led to developing a method of interrupting illness in the body. Bernard is initiated in Reiki, studied shamanism, and has taught Reiki, energetic healing, and shamanism. His current work is in changing damaged cellular structure and reprogramming DNA and RNA to heal severe conditions. After this commercial break, I'll introduce Bernard, and we'll delve into the many messages found in the body, body posture, energy healing, and reprogramming DNA. It could be an enlightening time, so don't you go away. You're listening to The Science of Magic. Prior innovative episodes can always be found on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common. They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State-certified occupational school training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com. Welcome back. This is The Science of Magic, dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our guest this hour is energetic healer Bernard MORIN. His website, inthenameofhealing.ca. Bernard, thank you so much for joining us on The Science of Magic.
My pleasure, Gwilda.
Do you think of yourself as empathic?
Definitely. That's something that's been there right from the beginning. But I kind of suppressed it because I always thought that was like mental white noise. You know, you don't know whether to listen to it or not. So as I've grown, I realized that the real truth was there. I just simply had to listen to it.
So you're also probably pretty kinesthetic. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Yeah.
So your way of intuiting a body through you, which I call tracking, is definitely my way of working. I mean, I can do it at a distance as well, which I'm sure you're probably capable of, and that is that if someone has an issue, I can tune in on just by hearing their name on what part of their body needs it. I feel it in my own body, but I don't need to feel it with the intensity they may be feeling it.
That's a blessing, no?
Oh, yes. Well, I had to ask for that.
It can be pretty overwhelming, yes.
Oh, yeah. No, there were occasions when it was like, okay, hold it. I get it.
Yeah, I used to have to thank my body. Okay, I get the information. You can let it go now.
Yeah, exactly.
So tell us about your work with body postures.
That started because I was living in England, in a part of London that had a 5-way intersection, and it's the part of the Roman plan of London, which is circles. You know, and although this wasn't a circle, things would intersect at five roads would all come together in the same intersection, like a wheel. And in between each of those lanes was a projection with a light on it. And my bus stop was right across the street from where I lived, and I would be standing there next to an electricity pole. And there was always a woman at the corner, holding the same shopping bags, and she had her fist raised and her finger pointed, and she was yelling at all the cars that were running through the intersection. And I'd seen her every day. In fact, her name was Mary, and she was a local fixture. And I remember thinking one day, I wonder what it must be like to be her. What's it like to be in her body? Because I personally couldn't imagine myself standing out in front of everybody doing that. And so I mimicked her body posture, and I thought, okay, I'm going to go home tonight, stand in front of the mirror, and see what that feels like. And when I did it, and it took me very few minutes, I realized that I was able to gain a real picture of what her life had been and why she stood like that. Because she was hunched over and her head was poked forward, and she was raising her fist angrily. And I thought immediately, she had quite an abusive father. It was children are seen and not heard, and she wasn't allowed to speak up against him. So there she was, yelling at something that couldn't yell back, which was traffic, cars going by. So that's where it all started.
Wow. How do you think you're able to read another's lives and emotional traits by miming their postures?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I know when I took the postures on, an emotion, connecting emotion rose up within me. And the first thing, of course, is you have to know your own emotional body to understand what's being said or what that means or where that may have a source. I can't explain how it happens, but I do know that people that I have taught in either shamanism or Reiki have come out with the same thing. So I can't state that it's universal, but I know there are people like myself who get it, which we name tracking. So it has surfaced for many people in the teaching. So the mechanism, I don't know, Gwilda, do you have an answer on that?
No, not necessarily. I was curious, hoping you might. I would assume that you really have to know yourself first before you can discern what's yours and what's someone else's, even when you are taking on their body posture?
Absolutely. Yeah, you have to have knowledge of who you are. Otherwise, if you're tracking, you don't know whether it's you or someone else you're picking up. I had a great example in a practitioner's workshop I was teaching where we would bring volunteer clients in, and this one practitioner went into panic attacks working on this one man with performance anxiety. And she came out and she said, "Oh, it was awful. I just didn't know what to do. I had this panic attack." Well, as it turned out, the wife of this man who had volunteered as a client was there. And I said, "This is really simple." And I said to her, "Does your husband have panic attacks?" And she said, "Oh my God, yes, they're terrible." Right. And I was able to say, see, it wasn't yours, but because you didn't know it wasn't yours, you assumed it was. We make that assumption first, right? And it's a mistake. So you have to know yourself.
I wonder how much this plays into, how actors will work really, really hard to take on the posture of the character that they're playing. And some report actually finding they lose themselves in the caricature. I wonder how much this plays a part in that.
I think it's very, very true there. In fact, the better actors do lose themselves in it and are able to act as those characters, doing things that were not part of original direction or script. So yes, you're right.
It's an amazing form. Can you do this visually as well, or do you need to physically adapt their posture? What I'm saying is, I can usually sit and look at someone and look at their structure and read it from there without having to take it on physically.
Yes, and I think initially the taking on the body posture was the entry. It was the way in to all of that. But now I intuit. I can intuit with someone's name and their physical, their place of residence, not their address, but their place of residence, and can pick it up. Someone can tell me a dream, and in the first 3 words, I'm in the dream and know what's going to happen. It's something that develops the more you work with it.
Tell me about the name. How do you think that works by hearing the name?
That's fascinating because at times, I used to doubt, well, how do I know I've got the right John Smith in Philadelphia? How do I know I'm not picking up another John Smith? And that's where the kinesthetic part of it really kicks in, and you can say, okay, I'm getting lower right lung is an issue, and I'm feeling some pressure there. And some say, yeah, that's exactly where the problem is. And so I have, my linear brain needs that confirmation, because you still don't always trust, but after a few years, it's like, I don't have to trust. I mean, the energy knows where to go. They know who they're working for, and if there happen to be 2 or 3 other John Smiths who need it right now, fine, they're getting it as well.
they get the benefit on the side, right?
Yeah, and have no knowledge of where it's coming from. I trust completely that the right thing happens to the right person.
So are you able to pick up and kind of dial in to whether you're looking at physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual illness or imbalance through taking on the body postures?
Yeah, I am. The body posture initially gave me emotional, and therefore the relationship of emotion to physicality. And then from that, I was able to delve into first cause, like what really was the event, and at what age did this all happen. And that just started to reveal itself the more I delved into it. It was like, oh, this is from age 3, and it would be, no, it was age 3 and 7 months, And all of that comes forward as soon as you start. It will reveal.
So does it sometimes take you to past lives? You say it takes to the past. Does it take you clear back to another life?
Oh, yes.
How frequently do you see that?
Well, I have been working with a doctor of psychology in the southern states for 15 years with his clients and with his clients' permission. And his specialty is that area of work and other difficulties. And I'm able to tap in and examine first cause, and then also the route of healing, like what is a proper route to start revealing this. And as you probably know, you also get, this is for me to know, but not for me to tell. Mm-hmm. Because someone may not be ready to hear it, but you need to know it in order to help them. So past lives come up all the time.
Yeah, that's one of the greatest challenges I've found is discerning what information that you're getting is in the person's best interest. And I've kind of set my don't show me if it's not to be told kind of thing. How do you manage that?
I actually accept everything that comes in for information, and if I have any question about whether this is just for me to know or for that to tell, I ask, in my case, guides or teachers to say, just tell me, is this for me to know or for me to tell, and make it simple so it's clear. Because it's all, they're there to help with the healing as well, so I just trust that will happen and come clear.
Another challenge is affording people their privacy when you're not working with the permission. How do you manage that?
I usually ask for permission. I don't have to ask for it necessarily physically, but what I do is I address the spirit or the soul that resides within the person, saying, is this in the best interest of this soul or the incarnation of this person to be looking at this information? And if I get a no, I just don't go there. But usually you get a yes, and then I will double check that is this just for me to know, or is this for me to mention or talk about? And is that at this time or at a later time? So I make a very strong distinction about when and how this information is appropriate and to whom.
So are you talking about working with your clients, or are you talking about just anybody you bump into on the street?
Oh, on the street, it's the only time I really put my abilities to work on the street is if someone addresses me in some way, or if they're in pain, or I can tell by their eyes they're needing assistance with something. But I shut it down on the street unless it's for my own protection.
Got it.
You just can't. You can't go there. I mean, it's invasive, really.
Exactly.
And, yeah. And it's a matter of respect too, right? So.
Absolutely. So how'd you learn to do that? I mean, at first I just got TMI all the time.
Yes, well, I got that too. I was at a funeral for someone I knew, and a reception afterwards, and he was very close to his sister, and who was sitting there, and the whole time that she was talking to people, they were addressing the group, he was sitting beside her, and I thought, how wonderful that he was so proud of her and smiling and really, really happy that she was there speaking for him.
We're going to have to take a quick break, Bernard, and we'll pick up with this too much information on the other side of the break. Bernard and I will return to our discussion. You are listening to The Science of Magic on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Previous broadcasts of thought-provoking episodes can always be found on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. We will be back, so don't you go away. The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common. They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State-certified occupational school training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com. Welcome back. This is The Science of Magic, a place where magic and science come together to promote enlightenment. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our guest this hour is energetic healer Bernard MORIN. His website is www.inthenameofhealing.ca. Byron, we were talking about getting too much information and how we learn to field that. Were we done with that, or did you have something more to say?
No. What happened was I was so taken with the love I felt between this fellow who had passed over and his sister that I told her afterwards, and she was so terrified. She hid in the bathroom for the rest of the reception. So I thought, we're going to have to get more specific about whether this is for me to know or to tell, and that's what fostered that TMI awareness. Okay, let's just be really clear about whether you say something or not.
Got it. Yeah, and it's just kind of takes double checking, right? You just kind of check with the higher self of the person in the room.
Yeah, and my bottom line on that is, if I have any doubt about it, I don't say anything.
When in doubt, keep your mouth shut, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you tell the exact nature of people's trauma through their body posture or facial expressions? Like, say, for instance, do you actually access memories?
Yes, but that's not immediate, and I only do that when I'm engaged in healing with them. But the posture gives me clues, and then if I allow myself to go into that posture, not so much for myself, but to deep sense it, in other words, using high sense perception, going into that posture, I can get to first cause, and using guides as well, I double check it because I don't want to make a mistake in any direction. And sometimes, I'm sure you have this as well, you'll get yeah, sort of. Okay, that's not a yes. I need to know more on this before the truth of it is clear, but I can get right down to first cause, who was there, what the circumstances were. If I had to, I could be in the room and identify the room and where and all of that. I don't like to get into too much detail because it's not, the focus is the healing, not the confirmation of the incident necessarily.
I think that's such a good point because we can get so caught up in our stories of our trauma that we don't move beyond them. Is that what you're talking about?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, you developed a method of interpreting illness through through body postures. Do you teach this? And that's what we've been talking about. Yes.
I do, or I did. I'm not so much teaching. I don't teach Reiki. I haven't now for maybe 10 or 11 years, and I don't. I teach. I'm teaching shamanism coming up this fall, but I taught several people who teach this body scanning, and I'm sure you know this as well if you were an RMT. It's scanning the body about 6 inches to a foot above the body with your fingers open. Will tell you where a particular area is, or there's a heat or an emanating energy that you pick up on. And after a number of times doing this, you begin to realize what issues are connected to that area of the body. So when I was in England and had sensed this woman and got a sense of her history, this woman who yelled at traffic, I had another friend at the time who was feeling the same thing, that people with similar psychological issues had probably similar emotional issues, and therefore they reflected outward into the physical body. And we would meet every 2 weeks and sit down and saying, okay, what did you find? And there was one very particularly striking day when she came in and she said, I've got it. The legs are about movement forward. I mean, that seems too obvious. But mine was, but the left is about moving forward in the environment, or the impeding of the environment, or by the environment, and the right is about your will. And we said, okay, let's just keep that in mind, and we'll keep our ears open. And I opened the newspaper the next day, and General Nixon and President Nixon and General Franco both had problems with the left leg, which is phlebitis in the case of Nixon. And this was when Nixon was struggling to stay in power, and Franco was having issues with power. And I thought, is it that clear? They're both having career environment issues, and it is on their left leg. And I thought, is it that simple? And it turned out it was. So I developed over that a way of reading the body and isolating issues in that fashion, which turned out to be quite universal. I thought initially it was just my party trick, that I could do this, but in fact, it turns out it's quite universal.
So that answers my question of whether you can teach others to do this. You've developed a form that is consistent, and then you can teach that form?
That's great. Yeah.
Nice. As we've been talking, and of course my background's in shamanism, it strikes me that you interface shamanism with just about everything you're doing. Do you find that it helps you control your natural abilities? How do you work that in?
It's interesting. When I took second degree Reiki, I'm in the old system, because my initiation was in 1988, before there were books really on it. And as soon as I got to second level, I thought, oh, this is where, I can journey on this distant healing. I mean, I'm able to journey through that. And when I, of course, hit shamanism, I thought, this is where they come together. Because if you're sending distant healing, that's technically what you're doing. You're either bringing that person to you, or you're going to that person. And it was most clear on one occasion. My partner had a principal of the school he was in was very ill, and we were meeting in the Southwest for Christmas, and he said, "Can you send to Ed, because he's quite ill, but he's in a hospital?" And I said, "Well, which hospital?" He didn't know. I said, "What's his home address so I can go from there?" "I don't know that either." So I had to go to his school to find out where he was, and I saw this image. I said, "Oh, I know that. That's Credit Valley Hospital," and because I recognized the rooms, and then I thought I can just step into this room, and I did. I said, "Okay." He's hooked up to monitors. You can't have any visitors. All of that. I could have walked outside the hall and told you what the room number was, and I thought at the time this could be really interesting if I can't get back. But I knew I could. Right. And I zipped back and I said, okay, this is what is happening. And I thought, this is shamanism. And they're not dissimilar at all. This is where they dovetail. It's an incredible tool. I mean, it's a tool. I think it's a natural tool, shamanism. I don't think it's an esoteric study. I think it's a natural part of us.
I totally agree. But if you learn the practice, it gives you the tools to, like you say, come and go with consciousness so you don't get all scattered. Is that what you're looking at there?
That's correct, too. But grounding is something I had to learn really early, because anybody with high sense perception has a lot of trouble staying on their feet. So grounding was an early teaching for me. It's just like, okay, slow down here. Just, find your feet, get back to the ground, and I find it easy to come back now. And in the beginning, it was like, whoa, it's so fun to be out here. But you have to be able to ground, because our job is to be in the body, to be on the planet, to walk through every day, to interact with people, and have, a human life.
I find that I'm both places at once. In other words, I'm present in my body, but I'm also very, very aware of things around me for a long distance. Even, on the other side of the planet, if there's somebody there I'm kind of holding focus for. Is that your experience, and how do you manage that?
It is my experience. I had to turn it off because I could feel earthquakes when they were coming. Mm-hmm. And a couple of friends, several people, Sharon Wyeth being one of them, who I would call and saying, okay, this is what I'm noticing. Are you getting it? In other words, is this universal or is it me? And, oh no, this is happening. I've been feeling that. Okay, all right, it's just what we're going through at the moment. But again, it's like too much information. You have to shut down and say, it's all right, I don't need to know that. My sphere of influence is right here, right now, although I'm aware I do world work, and I'm sure you do if you have that awareness, mm-hmm. that we're out on the planet doing work in areas that need it. It's like we're called to it. We can't not be called. But I have the right, or I should say I retain the right, to be human without too much information and to lead a life that is not complicated and feeds me as well.
I had to start looking at the earthquake map and the solar stuff and this and that so I could figure out what is it I'm picking up. And after a while, I could get pretty accurate. And once I got pretty accurate, then I was comfortable letting go, if that makes sense.
Oh, listen, the earthquake watch is on my browser. I have to. And that and solar flares is the other one. You have to kind of watch what's going on. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that means you probably have trouble with electronics. Oh,
yeah. I go through computers like salts through the hire, girl. Can't wear a watch.
Yeah. And I can go and buy something in the store, and they say, oh, sorry, but the computer seems to have crashed. And I just smile because I know it's me,
I've actually learned how to kind of feel that a little bit. Have you?
Yes, I have. I had to turn it, and really how to turn it down, and to make it small. However, and you may notice this as well, is that when you're just out and about, all of a sudden you notice your field is growing. It's like, okay, somebody somewhere here needs something. I can feel it. And it's, in which case, if that's spontaneous combustion, I just think, all right, well, I'm fine, just do it. But it makes it a little difficult to work on computers and do that kind of work. So I thought, okay, we can't do that right now. We'll have to just. So can you wear a watch?
No, I don't wear a watch.
Right. I haven't been able to wear one since 1988. They don't keep time. Which is a great symbol for linear time as fabrication. It's not really running past that measured increment at all. But I can't wear a watch either. So We're
Do you
children of
find
the universe.
do you find time shifts backwards and forwards sometimes when you're working?
Oh yes, definitely. And one of the difficulties I had when I was treating people one-on-one in visitations, meaning they were coming to where I worked, was that a lot of times the work was over in 10 minutes for me. But I was paid by the hour, so I had to sit there.
and look like you were busy, huh?
Right.
We're going to have to take another commercial break. Bernard and I will be back on the flip side, and we're going to talk about the healing work he's doing right now and what he has to offer. We'll be back on the flip side of this commercial break. You're listening to The Science of Magic on the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net, the place where altruistic professionals of science and the esoteric create common ground for the betterment of our world. You can always listen to previous transformative broadcasts on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. We'll be back. Don't go away. The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common. They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State-certified occupational school training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com. Welcome back. This is The Science of Magic, bringing together gifted people of service to the world. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our guest this hour is energetic healer Bernard MORIN. His website is inthenameofhealing.ca, www.inthenameofhealing.ca. Bernard, we were talking, I wanted to take up on this side of the break, with some of the work you're doing right now. Tell us about, you says you're reprogramming DNA and RNA. I find that really fascinating.
Well, as you know from shamanism, you can go as broad as the world, or you can go into the infinite, the minuscule. And very often when I'm working with healing, and if someone's had a problem that has plagued them most of their life, I will first go to first cause and then find out what initially caused it. But then I work with a grid form, and I ask to see their illness on a grid. And usually that grid appears as purple. And where there is the illness, it's aberrant. In other words, the graph is like if it were a wire mesh. It's as if somebody grabbed it and twisted it slightly. So then I ask for their perfect state of health to appear as a gold grid, and then I marry the two, and the gold straightens out the purple. So I thought, all right, that's one shift, and people perceive that. They could feel it, and you're only able to correct some things. Genetic deformities, I think, are part of karmic challenge and not necessarily something that is available for healing. But I then discovered that if I could see DNA, if I could bring that forward, then I should be able to change it. And I found that I could. And initially I thought, okay, is this a place for me? Do I have a right to be doing this? And I thought, okay, if I don't, then I'm going to be told. I'll get a really clear message, or I won't get an image. So what I've been able to do is to look at the whole DNA structure and to turn off certain genes, to turn them off, turn others, to adjust them slightly to cause differences that people perceive physically as being more at ease within themselves. Now, that isn't something that happens immediately because the DNA then has to spread through the body, and there has to be a cellular change before that can happen. But I'm not at a point of it yet where I can say, absolutely, this is what I can do and work with. It is where I think I could be of most use at the moment. And because I resist meeting clients face-to-face now, I do all my work by telephone. It's an easy extension on the work I do.
So how do you know what to shift? Do you tap into the original design? Is that what the gold grid was about?
That I can't tell you. Some of these things surface, and you must know this as well. Things come up saying, oh, I wonder what that is. and I get it. That's a grid that represents their deformity. There it is there. I can see it in that portion. With the DNA code, if I look at them, it's like little buttons. The genes appear, and it's like you push that one. Oh, okay, and no, that's a dial, and it's really working by intuition. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. It's like, oh, okay, I'm supposed to do this. I'm supposed to do that, and shift it. And I then check in with the clients I'm working with. This is with their permission, of course, and say, what do you perceive there? And they say, okay, I can feel there's a difference. But it's not an immediate healing. It means you're working with, a blueprint for the body that has to then move through the body. So that's the course of the new work at the moment. So I can't say for sure it's a formal study, but that is where I'm going. And any student I've ever had, I've encouraged, look, I'm only teaching my own experience. So you need to honor your own experience. You will have stuff to say and do and investigate here that is part of that which makes it uniquely reflected through you. So it's not so much creating courses of study based on things that I found. It's about encouraging people to find their own way.
Where do you think we're getting the information from when we work on someone? Do you think it's coming from their intent or someplace else?
That is, that's the real question. For me, I thought, okay, whoa, where is this coming from? How do I know this isn't darkness or dark side? And I thought, because that's coming from my doubt. And what I have to do is stay resolutely clear anything that I want to see happen for people out of the way, and trust that the knowledge and the information and the ability that's coming through me is for the highest good. And I sometimes have to qualify that this is the highest good for this person or the highest good of humanity or whatever, but I put qualifiers on it. Otherwise, I don't want to be engaged in the work. But it's never led me wrong.
So you're working on your intent to do the best for all concerned.
We have to. Yeah. I mean, you know how our brains are able to skip in saying, "Oh, wouldn't it be nice if this person came away, saying, oh my God, I feel so much better. I know my cancer's gone." No, it's not. That's what I would like to hear somebody say, but really, it's not my job. My job is to offer the energy that is needed to bring this person to a right relationship to their own body. So it's not up to me to hold hopes for them.
Got it. Yeah. So how did you decide to get into what you're doing now? How did you get started with it?
I went from working with observing people and how they held their bodies. Then I discovered I could intuit that across the street because, of course, I could have gotten myself into a lot of trouble staring at people. So I had to start intuiting from a distance. I mean, I used to walk behind people who walked funny and kind of take on the posture. And I thought, I could get punched out if I'm not careful here. But I was working in advertising, And as you, I suspect, know, it's a difficult thing to be in at a certain level, because what you're doing is creating something to sell products, and some of that is absolutely genuine and is right and should be heard, and in other cases it's not. But it's a very political environment to be working in, and I was less satisfied with it all the time, and becoming less, feeling less effective in it. And at the same time, I'd hit Reiki, and I'd hit this wonderful healer in New Hampshire, Eleanor Moore, who's no longer with us. And I was just ramped up on what I was learning and feeling, and that I felt I had a real calling there. So on my film sets, you know, a crew member would come up and saying, "Oh, I'm having a lot of trouble with my back here," and I'd say, "Oh," and I'd put my finger there and move it or dial it a bit, and then they'd walk away and they were able to complete the shoot. And I realized at one point that was eclipsing my advertising work, and that it was my calling. Because as my partner said, "You realize how much passion you have in your voice when you're talking about this?" And I thought, yeah, damn, he's right. You know, everybody says, follow your passion. But what is my passion is always the back. You know, what are you going to be when you grow up? You know, yeah. It's like, I don't know. I'm still finding out. I'm still growing.
So before we run out of time, how can people get a hold of you to work with them?
To go to the website, there's a connect up directly there for me to my email. So it's in the name of healing.ca. And that's how people would get to me directly. Got
it. So when you've done DNA or RNA work on people, and you say it has to integrate into the body, do they tend to go into a major detox while the old material is being broken down so the new can replace it?
Well, the body's replenishing all the time. I mean, we've got cells dying and being recreated all the time. So I've never felt that needed to be a particular detox, but if I get that as a message, it's like, okay, I want you to drink a lot of water with lemon juice or something like that, or be careful, or do detox baths or something. But that would be very clear in the messaging when I'm working with them. So I do ask people to just be calm and sit with this, and just sit with the change and allow it to move through them with ease. You know, to honor that a change has happened. But I try to encourage people to have their own instinctual relationship to their body. So that's part of it. So if you feel you need to detox, then you do it.
We have a little over a minute left. Would you have something to share with the listeners in parting?
Yeah, and that is, I think sometimes we get too stuck on teachings and teachers, because Reiki, as an instance, happened because of the mystical experience of one man, Mikao Usui, and everything that has happened to me has come from my own curiosity or my own mystical experience. And we tend to downplay that. I think sometimes we give our power over to other teachers. So one of the things I had to fight with as a teacher was being put on a pedestal, because I didn't like that. It's just like, no, I'm teaching from my own experience. Now make it your experience. And so I'm very careful with teachers and with books the same way. I don't want someone else's truth to pollute my own experience.
Exactly, and that takes being able to listen to yourself again, and that's where this whole thing got started. Hey, thank you so much for being on the program with us. It's been a pleasure.
You're very welcome. Yeah.
This has been The Science of Magic. Remember, you can always listen to past thought-provoking episodes on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. Until next time, dear ones, may you be blessed with knowledge and comforted with love on your sacred path to wholeness.